Hello my guys, welcome to the channel. Today we are talking about General Grievous, that most dastardly of droids. Now, we just hop over to my account and to these quotes I made previously in preparation for this. You'll see I have three versions of his team up. Now, we'll talk about each of them in one at a time, but first the classic version. So the classic version is the one that was pushed on us when General Grievous was reworked maybe 3 years ago, something like that. That is to say, Grievous, B2 Battle Droid, B1 Battle Droid, Magna Guard, and Droideka. Now, as you can see from the way I've leveled the characters, the first thing I would say is the Droideka is not completely essential. Now, you can use Droideka in Territory Wars nowadays. He's got a very good armor gun. I'm not going to talk about that because Territory Wars is not as interesting to me personally as GAC is. But he's a perfectly good character even in Gear 12. General Grievous, on the other hand, has to be Relic 7. Now, General Grievous actually benefits really greatly from Relic levels because Relic levels and the Mastery levels buff his health massively. And because his attacks are health based, he gets huge increases to his stats, which actually make him hit people real hard. So he needs to be as high a Relic level as you can get. 7 is fine. When you get to 8 and 9, it's a little more difficult because that buffs tanks over other types of characters. Grievous, of course, is not a tank. But up until Relic 7, certainly, he is incredibly important. And his two Zetas, so the first one is Daunting Presence, which is on his lead ability, are essential. So this one gives you turn meter. So when a target locked enemy is damaged, gain turn meter. Double for Grievous, and then they can't counterattack. This is so clutch because if he's getting 4% turn meter and there are 5 people on the other team and they all have target lock, he gets 20% turn meter every time someone does an AoE and hits all 5 target locked enemies. That means he is jumping turn on turn. Brilliant. Plus the counterattack bit means teams like CLS, for example, really struggle to counteract General Grievous. They can't really get going in the same way they normally can. So this Zeta, pretty important. Metal Monstrosity is almost as important, right? Because this one, the Zeta part of it, so the whole ability of this one is just Grievous protect himself. This is a whole like lore type thing that he always throws droids in front of people when he's been attacked by others. Tries to save himself off other people, even though he's a ridiculously powerful character in the Star Wars lore. He is often seen as a little bit cowardly, right? The Zeta part of it is the part which gives you the bonus turns upon death. So once you start getting characters killed on your team, he starts going nuts. And this is what this ability does in that it dispels all debuffs, resets ability cooldowns, and he gets a bonus turn instantaneously, which means you can smash people with the AoE, the Grievous wounds, repeatedly. Every time someone dies, he's just going to smash. And of course, if you smash them and they have target lock, you also get 10 meter back, so you then also get 20% 10 meter, and then you also speed Grievous up inside of that. So both of those are kind of essential. You kind of need both to make the team work. I guess the other one that's completely clutch that you need is B2 Battle Droid. So B2 Battle Droid is your support character for the team. I know it lists him as a tank, but he doesn't taunt unless you have Wat Tambor on the team. But he, with his mass AoEs that inflict buff immunity and target lock, plus his Zeta, which on reactive protocol, this is crucial. Whenever B2 inflicts a debuff, which as I just said he does with his AoE, all separatist droids get 5% turn meter. So now if you think about it, B2 hits an AoE on a team which has got 5 enemies and they have target lock on, and he inflicts buff immunity on all 5. So you get lucky, you get all 5. So he then gives 5% turn meter to each of the other characters. Grievous then also gets 20% turn meter from those from the hitting the target lock, and suddenly, Grievous is spamming up. That's of course to make it clear as well. Every time B2 inflicts a debuff, individually you get 5% turn meter. So if he inflicts 5 debuffs, you get 25% turn meter. So you could imagine Grievous could bounce up 50% turn meter in one AoE from B2 if you get lucky, which is insanely powerful. Of course, this is not his Zeta, but of course it's helped by this because he gets 40% chance to get turn meter every time someone either takes damage or evades damage. So, also is evaded damage. So he has a basically 50% chance to take a bonus turn anyway whenever someone gets hit on his team, which is great. Or someone evades his attack, which is also great. So he can constantly also get 100% turn meter and start rolling. Magna Guard, don't need his. His is trash, right? I mean, this one, I never got this one. Dispelled. If no buffs were dispelled, reset cooldown ability. I mean, it's really not useful at all. Not worth it. Waste of time. And then lastly, B1. So B1 is a weird one because B1 is one that you kind of need, but you kind of don't need. It's kind of B1 starts with stacks, right? That he only has 1 health, and each stack is 1 health. So if you've got 10 stacks, you've got 10 health. As this says here, as he goes along, you get 2, 2, 3. You can do the maths. And basically, when you get to 7, you've got 50 in total. So the Zeta gives you up to 100. So on one level, this is very useful because this gives you a lot more health, which is great, and a lot more chance to survive. On the flip side, it depends, because if you have a relatively low level B1, like gear 12 or whatever, and you're really just using B1 to do the heal and so on, you could just let him die and let General Grievous's Metal-like monstrosity go nuts, right? So you could do it that way too. So you could not care that B1's going to die quickly and just let him die. So B1's one it's kind of useful, it's kind of interesting. Of course, each stack gives you 2% offense. Of course, again, if you're 100 stacks, it's 200% offense. If you have 50 stacks, it's 100% offense. So of course, that's important. But remember, characters like Grievous, they're health-based attacks, so they don't affect offense in the same way. So even if you get the 200% offense, that doesn't affect Grievous in the same way. So he doesn't actually get a buff quite in the same magnitude as, say, a B2 or Droidica would get. So it's a little bit different, depending on which characters you're prioritizing inside the team. I would guess would depend which ones you should actually focus on for your abilities. Now, Droidica, I said, is a give or take character, but his Zeta is really important if you can use him. If you can use him, he's very important because it basically allows him to attack at a turn. The Omicron is the level 9 one, level 8 is the Zeta. He gets evasion first, which is kind of weird. He doesn't move, right? I mean, so he can evade attacks, but whatever. However, he has the chance to assist, and it's a 35% chance of 1 in 3 chance. And I guess you've got to go into it thinking, okay, if B2 is constantly getting a 50% chance to take a bonus turn, every time someone attacks or he attacks and is evaded, and every time he attacks, there's a 35% chance Droidic will attack. And then there's also, I need to go to B1 because I've missed, he's not part of his Zeta, but there's an important bit to his kit here, which is also attacks at a turn. Where is it? I believe it is Roger. Yeah. Whenever a separatist ally uses an ability during their turn, he assists, giving 40% chance. So you could imagine, if you think this through, right? B2 gets a bonus turn, 50% chance. He takes his attack. B1 assists. Droidic assists because he has a 1 in 3 chance of assisting. One of those characters gets evaded. B2 has a 50% chance basically to take a bonus turn, in which case B1 will assist again. And Droidica gets a 35% chance again to attack. So you start imagining you can actually stack up these abilities quite nicely if you get lucky, right? And of course, it says here for B1, it's not his Zeta, but every time a Droid ally uses special, which again, Droidica with his AoE, B2 with his AoE during the mass debuff infliction, that counts as that. So B1 gets turn meter. Again, if you can think of it this way, you're adding turn meter in with 20% turn meter, so 10% turn meter that Grievous will give him. You're adding that in with, say, buff immunity gets inflicted by B2 on a few characters, you get 10, 15% of it. You start getting these all stacked up, and it means the team doesn't actually need to be inherently fastly modded. It just needs to be able to inflict debuffs. And then the rest of it can roll, right? So in some respects, potency is actually more important for this whole team. Well, health for Grievous, but potency for some of the other characters than speed is. Of course, I still mod him with speed because, nothing can beat flat speed. But still, potency is one way you can go forward with the characters. Now, that's your classic team. That is the team that was designed when he was reworked. That's the way they were wanting you to go for it because they brought in B1, Battle Droid, and they brought in Droidica. Those were the 2 new characters at the time when he came through. It was, I think, for Padme's event, if I remember rightly, that they brought these two characters in, and then they were, of course, important in the gas event. I would say Droideka is still Gear 12. That's all I needed for the gas event. Still all I need. But at the same time, they also reworked Nuke Gunray, and that's why I've got the Nuke variant. So this is a very popular variant as well. Why is it popular? Well, that's because of Nuke Gunray Zeta. So we just go to his kit for 1 second. So Viceroy reaches the Zeta, and basically, whenever a Separatist ally inflicts the debuffs, they also deal 5% max health damage, which cannot be evaded, which is really nice, right? Means you can't have people avoiding damage. And of course, again, it brings them all the way the team synergizes together, right? Because if you've got B2 inflicting debuffs, he's inflicting 5% health damage. If you've got debuffs being inflicted by B2, you get 10 meter generated. If you have B2 taking a turn and he's doing an AoE, B1 takes it in. If B2 is taking a turn, Droideka has a chance of taking a turn. And if B2 is taking a turn and inflicting any damage on target locked enemies, Grievous is dealing out turn meter. So the whole team together is synergizing beautifully, right? Depending whether you go for Newt or go for Droideka, they all do different things, right? And as it says there, this is not the Zeta part, of course, but Nuke Gunray, whenever he's defeated, does come back to life, unless it's gas. Remember, please, gas, Kylo Ren, Sun Whirlwind from Rey. These abilities overwhelm that. Obviously, Annihilate from Nihilus and Disintegrate from Mando. But every other character, every time you beat Nuke Gunray the first time, he gets 100% health and he stealths for 2 turns. Now you're going to say, that's cool, he gets an extra life. But it also means that Grievous takes a bonus turn. Even though Nuke Gunray does survive, Grievous takes a bonus turn, comes back, smashes people with the AoE again hits target locked enemies, again inflicts target lock, because that also inflicts target lock, that ability. All 10 meter generating, all damage dealing kind of team. So that is a very popular team. I use that sometimes too. I use it in Gear 12 because the Gear 12 is actually quite thick already as it is. He's not shockingly bad. And because he goes into stealth too, because Magna Guard is a tank and auto taunts whenever you have Grievous as the lead and Separatist allies, it actually is not too painful. Now, there is one of the variants. You can see that at the bottom, just popping its head out. Just peeking its head out. I've replaced Droideka / Nuke Gunray with BB-8. And it's labeled Star Killer Counter, right? And you're going to say, dude, Star Killer Counter with General Grievous? Yeah, Star Killer Counter with General Grievous. Now, I've done it a few times on streams. I will stream Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern for anyone who doesn't know. But the link is probably down below if I remember to put it in. However, BB-8 makes Grievous able to counter Star Killer relatively reliably. It depends a team a bit on Datacrons. If you've got Datacrons in the team, you get screwed quite quickly. However, if there's not Datacrons, he actually has a pretty good chance of doing this. And it's all about BB-8's droid specific kit. So BB-8 as a whole is a really fun character. He fits into lots of different teams. Obviously, specifically Resistance is like his best place, but he does fit into lots of teams. He has 2 Zetas. He roll with the punches, which is kind of a nice one, but it's not relevant for this really. For this team anyway. It's good for Resistance teams because he calls a random Resistance ally to assist. So if you're in a GL Ray team, for example, or I don't know, even a JTR team, it means you can get more assists going on. If you've got R2D2 in there, he'll pull an assist and he can do a stun on his basic, that kind of thing. So that's a nice one if you use him in Resistance teams. However, it's completely irrelevant here. Doesn't matter. That being said, Self-Preservation Protocol is his other Zeta. And this is a wonderful ability. That this is what makes Grievous able to counter Star Killer. You have to take the ability as a whole, but it is obviously partly this last bit which really does help. When BB-8 takes damage, he has a 50% chance to gain Foresight for 2 turns. Okay, that's cool. At the start of each encounter, perhaps the most important clause here, if BB-8 is active, which you have to hope he is if he is in your team, droid allies, of which Grievous, B2, B1, Magna Guard all count, obviously, as gain 8% turn meter for each active droid ally. So if you have 5 people, you have 8% turn meter. It doesn't say, so basically when CG write it as each other ally, they specifically don't mean include the same character that's referred to in the clause. However, if they say each active ally, they do also mean the same character. So in this case, it's 8 times 5, which is 40. So automatically, even if you have Mara Jade on the other team, even if you have the Star Killer Omicron that gives them 35 bonus speed, you're going to be fast. You're going to start at 40% Timia straight up. You're going to go first. And BB-8, if you mod him relatively well, is usually very fast. So he's going to go first. And then as the Zeta part, which is important too, is when BB-8 evades, you heal health and protection for all droid allies. So you heal Grievous up, you heal B2 up, you heal Magna Guard up. You don't really heal B1 because of course he's got stacks, so it doesn't really apply to him. But you heal the other 3. And because Magna Guard is a tank, that really helps. Especially if you can cleanse off any shock, because obviously shock will stop you healing properly. Game with B2, you don't want B2 to die quickly because he's the one spamming out the debuffs. And of course you don't want Grievous to die because he's actually your main man that does all the damage, right? So this one is kind of essential if you really want to take on Star Killer using John Grievous. It does work relatively reliably. I've done it more often than not. It kind of fails when you have Datacrons, unfortunately, because there's a bunch of Star Killer Datacrons that are still, I think, present until the end of this 5v5 season. So in August 2023, this won't apply anymore. So after that, you can just pretend like you didn't hear that. But that's General Grievous's teams. That's his main kind of setup. The last thing you said, what do you use him for? Well, in Grand Arena, you got 2 choices. You can either use him on defense, because even if you don't have a good BB-8 or good nuke gun ray on defense, he's a banner stealing jerk, right? Because he smashes the AoEs constantly, so he can constantly take away protection banners, that kind of thing. And in an attack match, that can make all the difference. On the flip side, if you want to use him to attack, Grievous beats a lot of basic like B, C class teams really easily. So Monmouth may beat Monmouth without trouble. Like I said, he can beat Star Killer with the right setup. In terms of really big teams he can beat CLS. You have to get a teeny bit lucky with the debuffs because you've got to land the target lock. If you don't land the target lock, they can counterattack and then you're dead. But if you can land that target lock, you can basically stop CLS in its tracks. Other teams, he can beat JML. Now this is a bit of a tricky one. JML, I would say recommend beating with trying to do with the new gunray variant. That's probably the best bet. It's tricky. It's like I think it's like a 50-50 shot basically. But if you're looking for a Hail Mary, or you've already damaged the team so they don't have 4-3 people, that kind of thing, you're trying to clean it up, Grievous is probably your man because he can land healing immunity on Jedi Master Luke. He can land target lock on all of them. And once you land target lock on that team, in general, they actually don't have any cleanse. If you think to the team, you have JML, you have Jedi Knight Luke, he doesn't cleanse at all. You have if you have Hermit Yoda, he cleanses one character only. He could on his middle ability, but his special ability doesn't cleanse anybody, just heals because foresight. And of course, if he has foresight, that means B2 will be evaded, which means B2 will give everybody loads of turn meter. Sort of win-win, even though they've got foresight. And then you've got Jedi Revan. Revan can cleanse on his special, but he can only use that once every 4 turns. And then I guess the last member depends a bit on which person's choice is which. But if you've got Grandmaster Yoda, he can't cleanse. Again, he can do foresight, but again, that helps us because we can spam out B2, get our turn meter going, and we don't kind of care. The other thing, of course, is if you use Nuke Gunray in that version, you can put Extortion on Jedi Master Luke. If you put Extortion on Jedi Master Luke, and of course, there's a very, very quick reminder just at the end of the video here, Extortion is a wonderful video. I think it's detailed in Tuba's Dealings. Removes 10% health, which is great. It's like 20% health. I'm reading the wrong bit. 20% health damage, which can't be evaded. If they cleanse it, it means you get critical chance and critical damage, which is really nice for characters like B2. Remember, B1 cannot critically hit, so that's kind of neither here nor there. Can't be avoided. Again, a nice thing, which is great. Inflict speed on all enemies. Debuff infliction again. It's all these things which help build in the turn meter, right? I think the only problem is with this is that you don't get the really good bonus, which is the extortion bit here, but because you're not the leader. But it's still a very, very powerful ability because it's unavoidable. 20% health damage. Jedi Master Luke's often a health-based character, so a massive punch in the gut for Luke. And inflicting speed down on the whole team. debuff infliction to meet a massive train. Choo choo. So hopefully that gives you some insight into General Grievous. His three main teams. In principle, the only Zetas you need are the two on Grievous, the one on B2, and the one on B1. You can get away without new gun rays. You can get away without Droidicas. You can't really get away without BB-8, but he is only for one specific team. If you just want the core teams, you don't 100% need Droidicas, you don't 100% need new gun rays. You can get away with the four first. If you really like, if you only had like one or two, I would ditch B1s and I would probably go either B2s, reactive protocol, because you get the 10-meter push from that, or I would go for Metalloid Monstrosity, because the bonus turns, cleansing, big hits, you can't beat that, especially for high level Grievous. That's clutch sometimes. So I guess I would go with Metalloid Monstrosity, reactive protocol, General Grievous' lead, which is Daunting Presence, then B1s, then Droidicus / Nuke Gun Ray at that point. Something like that. Anyway, hopefully that helps. Hopefully that's interesting. Please leave a comment down below to tell me whether that was even coherent in English or not. At least English, if not American English. Please like, subscribe, and let me know if there's a specific team you'd like me to do. I'm probably going to have done a few videos in advance to try and be more organized nowadays in the way I'm thinking. But I'm happy to try and slip teams in if someone has a real desire for specific teams. So thank you very much, and catch you guys all next time.